Hey, Philip, thanks for joining us today on Gizmondi on Wine, and we're excited to talk about the 2018 Chappellet Pritchard Hill Cabernet Sauvignon. Of course, Donn and Molly, they have come to Vancouver way back when. I remember them at a couple of the wine festivals. So the name is well known in BC from a long time ago, but we want to catch up with the current wine. Let's talk about Pritchard Hill to start with, set the stage with where this wine is made.
We have a little over 100 acres of grapes on a much larger piece of property. The Chappellets bought this property in 1967, and they originally bought the 300 acres that were the original Pritchard estate. That Charles Pritchard came here from the East Coast in the, I believe, the 1860s. Bought this property, 300 acres, and farmed it then. And there was a 30-acre vineyard here on the property, and there were fruit trees and cows. But the fruit was taken all the way from here to St. Helena. So, and believe me, the roads that they had then are not as good as the roads we have now. And then so the Chappellets bought the original 300 Pritchard property, and that's where we are right now. Our neighbors here, originally it was just the Chappellets. They came up here, and the stories from Donn Chappellet where they literally tried to talk him out of buying the property. Like, you don't want to be there. It's just too many rocks. There's no water. There's rattlesnakes. And then Donn and Molly Chappellet saw the property and said, no, we actually want this property and we're going to buy it. But now we have, Bryant, Colgan, Continuum, Ovid. We have many very illustrious neighbors, but it took 20 or 30 or 40 years for people to join us here. And so we've developed about 110 acres of grapes on the property. Pritchard Hill, it's not actually an appellation, but it's kind of a general area around this hill. And it is in the middle of Napa Valley, or in the eastern hills of Napa Valley, east of Rutherford. So it's a little hard to get to. Now GPS will get you there, but in the old days, people generally got lost just trying to find us. But you'll find us in the eastern hills, east of Rutherford and Napa Valley, at an elevation starting at 800 feet and going up to 1,800 feet.
The wine is Cabernet. Napa's famous for that. How would you describe the Cabernet Sauvignon that you're making or growing up on the top of Pritchard Hill?
Well, Pritchard Hill has a reputation that goes back to the first vintage of Chappellet Cabernet was 1969. And, they hit it out of the park immediately. That 1969 is considered one of the greatest wines made from Napa Valley, the history of Napa Valley. And so there's a very distinct character to these wines. They're very concentrated. We're growing the grapes on these very thin, rocky volcanic soils. So the vines do struggle. We try to keep them from struggling too much, but we have limited yields, we have small berries, and consequently we get these very structured, very dark, very concentrated wines, very age-worthy. But as we've learned to make the wines, we also incorporate some kind of approachability in the wine. So they're very dark colored, very intense, kind of dark fruited, blueberry, blackberry, kind of more spice than herbs, and then structurally big tannins, lots of weight. And the Pritchard Hill Cabernet, we know from our history here, these wines will age 30 to 40 years. They're approachable before that time, but we have yet to see one go over the hill in the time that we've been making wine. So they are very age worthy. But as I say, we have incorporated into our winemaking style kind of an approachability. So if somebody does open a bottle of Pritchard Hill, they're still going to enjoy it in its youth. In fact, it's very attractive in its youth, but it just becomes much more complex with time.
So obviously the Pritchard Hill Cab is a selection too, like a barrel selection in the end, or so that some of it that doesn't make it, or is it a site selection?
The Pritchard Hill is all is from our estate vineyards on Pritchard Hill. Okay. And so it is a selection from the vineyards, all the different blocks on the vineyard, and then it's a selection at times, it's a selection of the best barrels from a lot. If
Right.
we're not going to use an entire lot, we'll sort through and decide which barrels go into it. So so it's an estate wine from the Chappellet's property.
And just to wrap it up, it's the 2018. Are you a fan of that vintage?
Oh, beautiful vintage. It was the most fantastic growing season. And, once in a while you get lucky where you have high quality and high quantity. And so we had a big yield of very high quality grapes. We had to thin our grapes multiple times. Our vines had to be thinned many times, but to get the right balance. And the wines are just beautiful. It's a very classic vintage for Napa Valley and for Chappellet.
Phillip, thanks so much for joining us today and telling us the story of the Pritchard Hill 2018 Cabernet Sauvignon from Chappellet. We look forward to finding that in the store and discovering the joy of drinking Pritchard Hill. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. It's been a pleasure.
May is Premium California Wine Month at BC liquor stores. Check out gizmondiumwine.com for a full list of wines and select winemaker interviews. Thanks for watching.